So, you've just watched an absolute masterpiece of a film for your research. You've taken all your notes, you have the perfect quotes lined up, and you are completely ready to write. But then you stare at a blank bibliography page, and you're suddenly wondering how on earth to actually format that movie in Harvard style. Well, you're in exactly the right place. In this explainer, we're going to completely demystify the film citation process so you can just get back to your actual analysis.
Okay, so how do we actually cite a film correctly? It's a super relatable problem because translating a casual movie night into a perfectly formatted academic reference, it can kind of feel like trying to crack a secret code, and there's a really good reason for that. It's just not like a book where you flip to the title page, copy down the publisher and year, and call it a day. Books are relatively static, but films are incredibly fluid. They get remastered, re-edited, and distributed in a million different ways across the globe. So capturing all of that dynamic information correctly is absolutely vital for the integrity of your research.
Right? So the golden rule here, the primary goal, is basically a two-part mission. Your reference has to clearly identify the original work itself and this is crucial, the exact version of it that you watched. This is the foundation that everything else is built upon. It's simply not enough to just tell your reader what movie you saw. You literally have to tell them how you watched it. If you just drop the title, you're only giving your reader half of the map they need to follow your research trail.
Which brings us to this really fascinating concept, the version viewed. Think about it for a second. A 10th anniversary director's cut that you watched on a physical DVD is fundamentally different from a standard theatrical release that you streamed online over the weekend. There could be totally different edits, added or deleted scenes, or a completely altered pacing that changes the whole meaning of the film. Your citation needs to reflect that specific reality, ensuring that anyone reading your work can trace your exact steps right back to the exact version you're referencing.
So let's build this citation piece by piece. Harvard variants usually construct a reference using a very specific logical formula. You kick off with your baseline, the film title and the release year. That's immediately followed by the director, who, in the context of film citation, essentially acts as your author. Then we get to that critical element we just talked about, the specific medium or platform. And finally, you wrap the whole shebang up with the production or distribution details. Master this sequence, and you've got a flawless reference every single time.
Now, you might be asking yourself, what if I'm analyzing just one crucial moment in the movie rather than the entire film? Let's say you're writing this really granular breakdown of a single 5-minute monologue, or analyzing the lighting in just one specific dialogue exchange. You want to point your reader directly to that exact moment, without making them sit through a 2-hour feature just to find what you're talking about, right?
Well, the answer is surprisingly simple. Just include a timestamp. You'll specifically want to do this when your institutional guide recommends it. It's honestly just like adding a page number when you're quoting a printed book. A timestamp, like, say, 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 4 seconds, acts as a precise GPS coordinate for your reader. It saves your professor or your peers from frantically fast-forwarding through an epic just to find a 10-second quote. It's a tiny detail, but it massively boosts the clarity and utility of your academic work.
But what happens when we introduce the modern complexity of streaming services? Because, let's be real, we rarely watch VHS tapes or DVDs for our research anymore. This massive shift to digital distribution over the last decade often throws people for a massive loop. Why? Mainly because traditional academic rules were originally built for physical media sitting on a dusty library shelf. So this streaming curveball really requires us to adapt our approach.
If the film is on a streaming service, you do have a few extra hoops to jump through. To properly lock down that version viewed, you've got to provide the specific platform name, the URL where the film can be found, and crucially, your exact access date. Why the access date? Because streaming rights are notoriously fickle. A movie on Hulu today might literally disappear tomorrow. That access date is your rock-solid proof that the film was there exactly as you cited it at the exact moment you watched it.
And this brings up a massive trap that so many people fall into with digital content. You absolutely must remember that the original film remains the primary source. So step away from formatting it like an ordinary web page. Even though you're watching it in a web browser on your laptop, it is a film first and foremost. You treat the original film as your core source and just append the platform later to it. Do not go treating Netflix or Amazon Prime like it's just a standard text-based blog post.
Now, let's be totally honest for a second. Manually formatting all these elements, getting the titles italicized perfectly, wrestling with brackets for the years, copying URLs, tracking access dates, it can feel pretty tedious and overwhelming. But fortunately, there is a highly practical tool at your disposal. Our source points us straight to the Harvard Reference Generator at harvardreferencegenerator.co.uk. It's specifically designed to automate this exact process and instantly generate a proper Harvard film reference for you.
However, keep in mind that the tool isn't magic. It operates on the classic rule of garbage in, garbage out. It only works if you provide it with the right fuel. First, you have to correctly select your specific institutional template because Harvard style actually has minor variations depending on your university's specific rulebook. Then, you absolutely must accurately record 3 key pieces of data into the generator: the release year, the director, and your specific viewing format. If you put the wrong viewing format into the tool, you're going to get the wrong citation out of it. Simple as that.
So what's the big takeaway here? Whether you format it entirely manually, using the exact formulas we covered, or you use a generator to speed things up, getting these specific details right is everything. It's all about academic integrity. Once you master this, there's just a genuine sense of relief in knowing you've left a perfectly clear, precise, and professional breadcrumb trail for others to follow your research.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to ponder. As the line between cinema and digital content blurs at this crazy, rapid pace, how will future platforms force these traditional academic rules to adapt even further? I mean, when interactive films and virtual reality experiences become the absolute norm for academic study, how will we define the version viewed tomorrow, when every single viewer might experience a completely different narrative path? Something to keep in mind the next time you hit play.